This morning, you got dressed without thinking about it. You reached for something soft, something that fit, and you covered your body the way you have every single day of your life. It feels like the most basic human thing there is. But the real reason your ancestors first put something on their skin is far stranger than modesty, and it has almost nothing to do with fashion. Because for most of the time our species has existed, humans wore nothing at all. And the moment that changed is written, of all places, in the DNA of a louse. Think about that for a second. To find out when humans started wearing clothes, scientists did not dig up an ancient shirt. Soft things like hide and fur rot away in a few thousand years, so there is almost nothing left to find. Instead, a geneticist named Mark Stoneking, working at the Max Planck Institute, had a very odd idea. Humans carry two kinds of louse. One lives in the hair on your head. The other, the body louse, lives and lays its eggs only in clothing. It literally cannot survive on bare skin. So the body louse could not have existed until there was clothing for it to live in. Stoneking and his team compared the two lice and traced back to when they split into separate species. The answer came out to somewhere around 170,000 years ago. That is when a new home appeared on the human body. That is when we started wearing clothes. Not because a fossil told us, because a parasite moved in. But knowing when only makes the why more interesting. Because 170,000 years ago, our ancestors were still in Africa, and Africa is warm. If clothing was only about heat, it should have appeared later, when humans moved into the cold. So what were they covering themselves for? The archaeologist Ian Gilligan, at the University of Sydney, spent years on exactly this question, and his answer flips the usual story on its head. Clothing, he argues, was never really about being naked. It was a tool. The first clothes were not clothes as you picture them. They were animal hides thrown over the shoulders, held on by hand, used like a portable shelter. Protection from wind, from rain, from the cold nights that even a warm climate can throw at you. You did not wear it to look like anything. You wore it the way you would carry a blanket, and you dropped it when the sun came out. You can see this in the tools they left behind. Long before there were sewn garments, there were stone scrapers, made for cleaning the fat and flesh off an animal skin so it would not rot. Those scrapers show up hundreds of thousands of years ago. Then, much later, around 40,000 years ago, something new appears in the ground. The eyed needle, a sliver of bone with a hole punched in one end for pulling thread. And that changes everything, because a needle means tailoring. It means humans were no longer just draping a hide over their backs. They were cutting skins into shapes and sewing them into fitted clothing that trapped warm air against the body. And the timing is not a coincidence. This is deep in the last ice age, when parts of the world were brutally, killingly cold. Fitted clothing was not a luxury then. It was the technology that let a tropical animal, an ape that evolved on the warm plains of Africa, walk into the frozen north and survive. Without sewn clothes, there is no Ice Age Europe. No crossing into Siberia, no walking over the land bridge into a brand new continent. The needle helped carry your ancestors across the entire planet. And here is the twist that should stay with you. Modesty, the idea that a body must be covered because it is shameful to be seen, that came last. That is not the root of clothing. That is a story we told ourselves much later, layered on top of a survival tool that already existed. For 100,000 years, humans wore skins for warmth and protection and status and identity, long before anyone decided that being uncovered was wrong. The shame did not create the clothes were already there, and the shame moved in afterward, the way the louse did. So think about what clothing actually is underneath. It is one of the first pieces of technology your species ever mastered. Not tools of stone that break, but a second skin, invented because our own skin was not enough to survive the world we insisted on walking into. Every other animal is stuck with the body it was born with. We are the only one that builds a new one every morning. Which is why getting dressed is far stranger than it feels. When you pull on your clothes today, you are not just following a habit or a rule. You are repeating the oldest survival trick our species has. You are wrapping yourself in an idea that let humans conquer the cold, cross the ice, and spread into every corner of the earth. The materials changed. The reasons multiplied. But the gesture is 170,000 years old, and it started with a simple, desperate need to keep a warm-blooded animal from freezing in the dark. So the next time you get dressed without thinking, remember what you are really doing. Not covering up, not following fashion. You are putting on the invention that made you unstoppable, a second skin your ancestors built by hand. Long before anyone taught you, it was the most basic human thing there is.